shots. But that's what they do. Almost half their field goals on the season are from behind the three-point line. And that's just the personnel of their basketball team. They've got all 5 guys that could shoot it, and Pittsburgh's going to have to be up defending that three-point line tonight with their hands active to have a chance to win this game.
Well, Binghamton controls the opening tap, and here is the band we will highlight all evening long. Sam Sessoms, who is having a remarkable sophomore campaign. Pierre Sarr is ostensibly the center for Binghamton, although they really don't play a true 5. They will spread it, and here is the Pitt pressure and almost a turnover. Those Sessoms down the lane and a Binghamton lead.
Yeah, tough break there for Pittsburgh. Did a very good job trapping that ball screen early. Were active with the hands and just tipped right to Sessoms for an easy 2. And Binghamton coming out with that zone right away. Pittsburgh, obviously not a team that shoots the ball very well from the perimeter, so Binghamton's going to look to really pack it in tight and beat them by making perimeter jump shots.
You predicted this, David. You felt like watching these 2 teams play. You watched Pitt's last game. You were here for the win over Northern Illinois. That this is absolutely the way to defend them, as Johnson down the lane, an early hold for Binghamton.
Yeah, and self-admittedly so, Pittsburgh is just not a good perimeter shooting team. That's just not the strength of their team. They know it. On the other end, this is exactly what Binghamton does. And that right there is going to be a key for Binghamton, is the backboard. They're being out-rebounded this year by about 4 per game. They're going to have to do a good job to stay in the game by competing on the backboard on both ends.
Now the Bearcats have missed the first 2 threes, and each taken by one of the freshmen that they just rave about on campus. There is Champagny, who has really had a breakout season. George Tinsley, 20 in green, and Brenton Mills, 2 for the Bearcats. Those 2 have played so many minutes. They've really produced offensively, and Tommy Dempsey, the head man for Binghamton, feels like the 2 of them, along with Sessoms, can really form a nice core going forward.
No question. It's a Binghamton team that only returned 2 scholarship players from a year ago, only 1 starter, and brought in a great recruiting class a couple of years ago and signed this year, and they're starting to play together. They're starting to really gel because they spend a lot of time on the court. It's a team that doesn't have very much depth, so these 3 freshmen, along with Sessoms, the sophomore, are having to grow up in a hurry. So there's going to be some growing pains, understandably so, but they're starting to get some confidence together, just spending a lot of time on the floor, and you know, they've played enough now. We're far enough into the season where they're not going to let this kind of stage against an ACC team really get to them.
George Tinsley leads the country in minutes as a freshman, and that is off the thigh of the kid from Iceland. I won't make you pronounce his name just yet. Håkan Helmersen, the Icelandic guard, gives it back to Pitt.
Name the other famous player from Iceland.
I can't.
I don't think there is one.
Thor, I guess. I think we could have predicted early in this when offense and buckets would be hard to come by. That has proven to be the case. 2-0 Bearcat lead. They try to go into the post, and Sessoms strips it away. He'll pull for a transition 3.
And even though that's not what you really call a high percentage shot, those are the kinds of shots that he makes. In the game against Boston University earlier this year when he went for 40 in a very good overtime win, he just absolutely got it going from behind the three-point line. And when you have a game like that, sometimes the rim just looks a little bit bigger than it really is.
3-ball attempt on the way for Trey McGowan's doesn't go. Put back from Audis Tony, no. And Pittsburgh can't buy a bucket. This kid, Sessoms, has the ultimate green light.
He does, and he's got confidence. You know, he had a very good freshman campaign last year, and obviously the America East Freshman of the Year. And when your coach gives you that kind of confidence, you know, you don't want to take advantage of it too much to where you're taking bad shots, but they also need him to score. And that right there, not Xavier Johnson's strength, but that right there is what Pittsburgh does well. Offensive rebound, just haven't been able to convert yet around the rim.
How about the block from Tinsley, who Tommy Dempsey could not say enough about? He plays like a coach's son, a star quarterback in Pennsylvania, and here he is distributing it back to Sessoms.
Yeah, and anytime you see a freshman leading the country in minutes, you're going to think that there's a Kentucky or a Duke name on the front of their jersey because they're a one-and-done caliber player. And it's so rare these days, but he really is that important to his team where he has to be on the floor at all times.
Well, Sessoms showing a real knack for the ball. There is Tinsley, wild and out of control. That's not his shot. It's not the third or fourth time Sessoms has found his hands on a deflected ball. Pitt nearing the first timeout in the game, still scoreless.
And Binghamton doing a good job mixing it up. They're going zone on makes and man-to-man early on misses. So Pitt a little confused here, a little out of sync. Only 8 left on the shot clock. Haven't really gotten into anything yet.
Here is Johnson. That is his forte, but it's swatted away. Pitt will control the basketball.
Well, Sam Sessum's coming down on the break, feeling it early. Binghamton off to a great start in an 84-79 overtime win against Boston University. Sessums was 6 of 14 from the three-point line, including a couple of huge threes from deep late to get his team back in it, get a chance to send it to overtime and win the game. Just an absolutely brilliant performance from the reigning American East freshman of the year.
David, I don't care if you play 40 minutes, 45, 85. You put 40 on the board, you've had yourself a night.
Oh, there's no question about it. It's very rarely, even in the NBA level, do you see somebody with 40 really too often, and to do it in a technically 45-minute college game is really, really impressive against a good, very good Boston University program.
Well, they just have no rhythm offensively, do the Panthers. That is a turnover by Audice Tony, a foul going for that rebound. Jeff Capel has gone to the bench. He brings Terrell Brown, a shot blocker extraordinaire, off the bench, as does Ryan Murphy, a guy who David thinks may well break out from a shooting perspective here tonight. Pitt has not scored. They trail 5-0. Here's another off-ball offensive foul. And David, you have played for and coached the absolute blue bloods in college basketball. You've been in games like this nearing the Christmas break. Pitt was not at its best against Northern Illinois. They did come back with the great run late to win the game. But here we go again early, and they just look flat as McGowan finally gets them on the board. But what's going through their mind, and what can change for the Panthers?
Well, in games like this, sometimes you come out, you know, I don't want to say you're too excited, but you come out, you don't get your first couple looks to fall. You start to get a little bit tight. Binghamton doing a good job switching up the defenses. Pitt a little bit confused, for lack of a better word, on what they're doing, what they should be running, and you get a little stagnant. And you know, finally seeing that first ball go through the rim, I think, will certainly help. But this is the end of the floor where Pittsburgh's going to win games this year. They're a very good defensive team. They rely heavily on the defense just because they're not a great offensive team, and they're going to have to do a good job here. Too easy right there for Binghamton getting to the rim. Coach Cable's certainly not going to be happy with that play.
The Icelandic wonder, Helmerson, down the lane. Yeah, Pitt holding its opponents to 58 points a game. They really have not scored it effectively. Here, Brown in the post, a turnaround way too strong off the window, and Tinsley brings it down.
But that's good. That's what they're going to have to continue to do. Get the ball inside. Obviously, the vulnerable spot of any zone is the middle. Just continue to get the ball inside. Those shots will fall. You know, there's a couple keys to any zone offense that's going to be effective. You got to get player movement, obviously. You got to get ball movement. But then you got an offensive rebound. You know, the zone, in a zone, you don't have a specific man each time you necessarily can put a body on. So it's harder to rebound. So Pitt's going to have to really create some extra possessions here on the offensive backboard and try to convert some easy points around the rim.
Yeah, and they've had chances. I mean, they've had some easy looks in the paint. They just have not converted. And of course, here is Xavier Johnson, the man we highlighted in the open. He is really one of the elite players in the ACC. McGowan's deep three.
Picking up right where he left off on Monday night. An 18-point performance, 4 made threes against Northern Illinois. Was pretty much their only source of offense in the game. Really stepped up big late, made some crucial shots, and that's a good sign for Pitt coming out early.
They don't win that game without him, as Sessums has it going early.
No, they certainly don't. I mean, they were down 7 with less than 6 minutes to play, and you know, the amazing thing about that, talking to Coach Cable today, is with Xavier Johnson, one of their better players on the bench, as McGowan hits another three, was when they made that run. And that's no knock on Xavier Johnson. He's a terrific player, but it was a game where a year ago, Pittsburgh doesn't win that game because they're so young. They just haven't learned how to come back in games like that. So Coach Cable was very pleased with that win the other night over a very good Northern Illinois team.
Yeah, in a way, it sends a message to both your team and to Johnson as Mills misses the putback, in that we can win without our best player. And oh, by the way, Xavier, you got to play a little better to earn those minutes late in games. Here he is in the lane, and he's on the board.
And that's what Coach Capel would like to see him do. You know, he's a capable three-point shooter, shooting a decent percentage on the year, but that's his strength. He's a strong, athletic guard, handles it well, can get in the lane and finish around the rim with the best of them, and that's when he's at his best.
Look, Jeff Capel, the head man with Blake Griffin at Oklahoma, had a really nice run there as Tinsley misses the three, then went back to Duke, was top assistant with Mike Krzyzewski for 7 years, and here he is at Pitt in his second season after a 14-19 campaign, trying to change the culture, change everything about the program he inherited after Jamie Dixon left. More interior defense from Binghamton, and it feels like, David, he's starting to really put his stamp on this program.
Oh, there's no question. And where this program was just 2 short seasons ago, going winless in the ACC, and it was at the bottom of the league. There's no question about it. And for him to get this turned around with essentially an entirely new roster, with the exception of a few players, is really, really impressive. You know, getting those guys, Xavier Johnson, Trey McGowan, to sign a year ago. Keeping Terrell Brown, obviously Ryan Murphy, a transfer, and a couple other guys. The program is certainly heading in the right direction, and the biggest thing to me is they're buying into what he wants, but they're competing. They're competing every night, regardless of who they're playing. They're guarding, they're defending well, and he's certainly got this program moving in the right direction in a very short period of time. So he deserves a lot of credit for where they are.
Well, he knows that guys like McGowan's need to be better, as Audis Tony with the left hand. How about what McGowan's has done in the span of 2 minutes? I mean, Pitt could not score, and he scored 8 points in about 90 seconds.
Well, that's been a question mark for Coach Capel, is who their quote-unquote go-to scorer is going to be, that guy that can get 18, 20 points a night. And, you know, the last couple games, it started this one so far, it looks like that guy might be Trey McGowan's.
Sessum's got banged up a little bit and then started barking at the referees as Tinsley off the glass. Sessum's sort of disengaged from that play.
And a good move there by Tinsley, and a great finish around the rim. Might even have gotten fouled. So a good finish right there, and you can see why Coach Dempsey needs to have him on the floor.
Murphy looked good most of the way, but as has been the case so often, it just does not fall.
And I think the depth of Pittsburgh is certainly going to be a factor tonight. You know, Binghamton, not an overly deep team. If Pittsburgh can get this game going up and down, get the pace going, I think try to get into Binghamton's bench a little bit. Fatigue might become a factor.
McGowan's to Kareem Koulibaly, and he is wild with the shot in the lane, but there it is again. Champagnie with an offensive rebound. You were here for the win over Northern Illinois, and Jeff Capel was really impressed and made a strong emphasis on number 12 in white, Koulibaly. He said they don't win that game without him. At the moment, just a narrow lead, 12-11 Pitt. Games and other team-related activities. David, well, this would be a week to be in some of those practices and meetings, because without Cole Anthony, the club has come off the rails. Roy Williams has got his work cut out. The loss to Gonzaga, I would imagine it's not the best time to be in Chapel Hill.
No, it's certainly not. And, you know, even before Cole Anthony's injury, they had some issues as far as who else is going to score. You know, you can't say, okay, Cole, go out there and get 40 every game. That's just not realistic. And obviously with him being out is a huge blow. You know, and then to have to go on the road, places like Gonzaga the other day, and those kinds of places is really hard to win. But Coach Williams, Hall of Fame head coach, he knows it's going to be a tough road, but, you know, they're going to compete, they're going to rebound, they're going to look to play fast, and, you know, it's just got to keep working at it. So it's certainly not going to get easier in conference play, but there won't be any shortage of effort, that's for sure.
Gallons has 10 points in just over 5 minutes to surge the Panthers ahead in this game. Do you think Cole Anthony's going to play another game for North Carolina?
You know, it'll be interesting. There's no question about it. You kind of compare it to some of these situations in college football where once the regular season gets over, you see a lot of these guys who are projected to be high picks in the draft skipping the bowl games. And Cole's situation is a little different, obviously, because he's injured, but projected top 5 pick in the draft next year. You don't know the severity of the injury. They're saying 4 to 6 weeks, but you know, it'll remain to be seen. Obviously a big blow to Carolina if he doesn't, but I think it's a little premature to tell.
Into the post they go. Here's Koulibaly. He's missed his first 2 shots. You know, I find it fascinating because when you talk to anybody, Greg Anthony has been pretty vocal about the fact that Cole went to Carolina to be around other great players and to make a run at the Final Four. And you wonder, with what seems like a guaranteed lottery selection, without maybe evidence that he's surrounded by that kind of player, that they have the Final Four kind of team, whether he'll be incentivized to go back.
Pitt doing a good job here, being active on the verge of a shot. Oh, steal, even better.
Jordan Willis has looked a little discombobulated off the bench. Here's Murphy, and that 3 is too strong. A second and a third chance goes down for Coulibaly.
And Ryan Murphy, if people could watch him in shoot-arounds, make 12 threes in a row from any spot on the floor, and you know, it's just sometimes it, and I'm not saying this is the case for him, but sometimes it could become a little mental. You start to think a little bit, you lose a little bit of confidence, and you know, all it's going to take is for him to get 1 or 2 to go down, and he's off to the races. So, but he's got to keep doing that. He's got to keep shooting the ball when he's open.
I think, David, in the last 60 seconds, we have seen why 3 young Bearcats lead their team, and in some cases the country, in minutes, because the drop-off from Sarr to Yarden Willis, not to pick on the kid, but every time he touched it, he was pressured. 2 turnovers in consecutive trips, and so Tommy Dempsey says, well, we got to go for it right here, and we're going right back to the starters.
Yeah, just not an overly deep team, but they know that. And, you know, it was interesting talking to Coach Dempsey today at shoot-around. You know, he said, he goes, we had to adjust to our personnel. You know, they've never been a real three-point heavy oriented type team, but based on certain injuries and certain other circumstances, they just don't have much of a low post threat. And so they've kind of had to become this prototypical three-point, you know, run and gun, spread the floor type team. And it's worked to a certain extent, but if those shots aren't falling, obviously it's a tough way to play. But you know, they got 5 guys that can shoot the basketball, so you might as well take advantage of it.
Sam Sessoms, yet another field goal attempt. That has been a common theme. He's taken 6 shots, made 3 of them a miss for Pitt. We saw Justin Champagnie make one in the corner on the previous trip. He's been very important in growing this season, as Sarr is going to go to the free throw line. Look, Sessoms has taken over 200 field goals in this season. He always is willing and looking to put it up. And Tommy Dempsey says, look, I want all of our guys to have the green light, but nobody more than that one guy.
Yeah, and 4 of their 5 starters averaging double figures. So, you know, clearly they can shoot the ball. They're shooting, you know, 34% from 3, which is not great, but they've had games where they've made double-figure three-point shots. And like I said, that's just the identity of their team. They know they have to rely on it, but they do a great job of spacing the floor, not forcing it, making the extra pass. But yes, Sam Sessoms certainly has the green light just because he's capable. It's not like they're saying, oh, well, you got to score 40 every night. He's just capable of putting the ball in the basket in bunches, and you know, Pittsburgh's done a pretty good job on him here so far.
And they are in a much better offensive rhythm as Caldwell kicks it. Pitt is on a 13-2 run. They have made just 1 of 8 threes thus far at Binghamton, and you figure that they've got to probably make 10 or more threes in this game to have a puncher's chance on the road. The back end of a little 2-game trip through Ohio and Pennsylvania as Johnson makes the top of the key 3.
And Xavier Johnson, you know, like I said, shooting 39% coming into the game, 12 of 31 on the year from 3, so he's certainly capable. They're just, he's the kind of player you would classify as a streaky shooter, and that's not a knock. Just, it's not the strength of his game, but he's capable of doing it, as you see right there. But he's at his best when he's getting in the lane, creating for others, getting to the free throw line. And that's what they got to do right there, get the ball in the middle of the lane. Good touch there by Eric Hamilton.
And he's a rebounder first and foremost, Hamilton, but he started to score more of late. And a good turnaround, Jay. You know, it's so funny, if you put a blindfold on after the releases from Johnson and Murphy, 10 times out of 10, you would have said Murphy makes and Johnson misses, but what do you know? Xavier knocks it down and Murray has missed 2. Sessoms, well, he's really taken this offense on his shoulder and does not have the touch there.
And Xavier Johnson, not known for being a great three-point shooter, but hit one from the top of the key early for the Panthers. A couple of threes early, off to a very good start with 10 quick points here. Coming off a very good game against Northern Illinois with 18 points, picking up right where he left off Monday night.
Truly instant offense, and Pitt badly needed it. They really in the blink of an eye surged to a 10-point lead as Binghamton inbounds to Sarr in the paint. He finds a little window. I love doing games with coaches like yourself because you get the stat sheet and you start scribbling all these notes. I notice you circled the points off turnovers at the last time out.
Yeah, you know, a couple of things always jump out pretty glaringly at you. Binghamton only 1 assist, 8 turnovers so far in the game, and Pitt with 11 points off of those 8 turnovers. So that's certainly playing a factor. And you know, good job by Binghamton there coming out of that timeout, executing underneath that bounce play. And as a coach, I looked right over to Coach Capel shaking his head. Those kinds of things just drive you crazy because you work on them for 2 or 3 days leading up to the game. You go over them again in shoot around, and then you come out, first time they run it, you get scored on. So those are the little things that as a coach just drive you absolutely crazy.
Well, I'm sure Tommy Dempsey not thrilled with how easy that was for Eric Hamilton in the middle of the lane, and yet another turnover, and to compound matters, Sarr fouled.
Yeah, and exactly right. You're frustrated. You want to turn the ball over, but you can't compound it by making a not very smart play there for a senior transfer, reaching in. Referee's going to call that every time. It's got to get back on defense and try to make up for it.
Pitt has solved the zone. They made 10 of their last 19 shots. And rather remarkably, other than the 1-3, this man Johnson has not been in the heart of it. It's been McGowan's and the men in the middle. Here is the soft spot of the zone. Champagnie, a little too strong.
And Binghamton doing a pretty decent job so far in this game of hanging with Pittsburgh on the backboard. Doing a good job right there of limiting them to one shot.
You know, other than the first 4 minutes of this game, Pitt looks much more like themselves. They've overcome the jitters, whatever it was, looking ahead to the holiday, underestimating an opponent, whatever it was. They have really locked into this game and surged ahead. Sessoms looks like he's going to draw 2 just about every time. That's some nifty dribbling, and he finds Sarr in the corner, and he held it too long. The 3 goes, but a shot clock violation.
Yeah, and that one looked a little bit closer than I think it was, but a good pass just a little bit late, hesitated right there on the ball fake. But Pittsburgh doing a very good job being active with their hands, doing a good job of trapping the ball screens, making it hard for Binghamton to really get into any kind of rhythm.
Looks like to get back into that zone defense. And the 5-minute mark in the opening half. Champagnie fouled by Sarr. David, it seems like they have sort of solved the riddle here. Pitt has just not been at all disturbed by the Binghamton zone defense the last 10 or so trips down the floor.
And they're being patient. You know, the last thing you want to do is come down. You know you got to get the ball into the middle of the lane, but you don't want to come down and just try to look to throw it in right away. You got to get the zone shifting back and forth, get a couple ball reversals, get a couple different guys flashing in there, but they're doing a great job of getting the ball in the middle, and once they get into there, having some success with getting to the rim.
Champagnie makes the second, and Pitt moves ahead by 11. Nothing But Net every Sunday is our weekly basketball studio show. We'll preview the week, look back at the best games from last week, highlights, analysis, and insight that only we can provide this week's show. 8 Eastern right here on the ACC network and the ESPN app. I love that. Look back, look ahead. The ACC, David, is more wide open than it has been in years. Obviously, a couple of teams in the top 5 in Duke and Louisville, but it is harder, I think, this year than almost any in recent memory to handicap who's going to win the league as Sessoms tries a deep 3, and Pitt is going to go off to the races. Out of bounds, Panthers will have it.
Obviously, from a talent standpoint, the 2 best teams are Louisville and Duke. The team you can never count out, though, and they'll be there in the end, no matter what, are the Virginia Cavaliers. I know they obviously lost a ton coming off that national championship a year ago, but Tony Bennett, one of the best coaches in the country, and it's a welcome sight for Pitt fans seeing Xavier Johnson hit second 3 of the game. But Virginia's always going to be there. They just are. They might not be as potent offensively this year as they have been in years past, but that defense is not going to change. You know, it's trying to score against them is trying to figure out how to ace the SAT. You know, it just is. It's very frustrating at times, is what it is. But Pitt obviously coming out here shooting the ball well from the perimeter, which is, you know, if you're Binghamton, it's not what you want to see.
Tommy Dempsey is not happy with his Bearcats. A happy-go-lucky coach, but not out where to get myself one of those suits. And Binghamton needs to figure out how to protect the basketball. David Patchett.
Turnovers, early story in this game, plain and simple. You know, Binghamton 11 turnovers so far in this game, and tough to go on the road, especially at an ACC school, and get off to a good start when you're just giving the other team the ball 11 times. And you know, speaking to Coach Dempsey today at shoot-around, he said we got to do a couple things. We obviously have to make a lot of shots, which they haven't been able to do yet. Only 1 of 9 from the 3-point line, and we have to dare, meaning Binghamton has to dare Pittsburgh to make perimeter shots, which they have done. They're 4 of 9 so far from 3. So not a great start here so far for Binghamton, but obviously plenty of time left in this game.
Yeah, this is a little bit of the nightmare scenario beginning to unfold for Tommy Dempsey. They knew they had their work cut out here. 1-7 all-time against ACC teams, a win over Miami in 2006. But on the road in a building like this, even if it's not packed heading into the holidays, was always going to be a tough test. That was a pretty nifty pass from Johnson, who gave up a layup as Champagnie, no good, and Binghamton comes away with it.
Yeah, Binghamton dodged the bullet there. Their 12th turnover of the game. Fortunate Pitt didn't make it. Pitt just being very active with their hands. You know, you got to credit Pittsburgh for forcing a lot of these turnovers. Did a good job there of challenging the shot.
Part of the equation right now that's got to be going through Tommy Dempsey's mind. What a play in the post. Tony will shoot a couple.
Great pass there by Terrell Brown. Saw the double team coming, kicked it right to Tony down low underneath, knowing where the defense wasn't. Has a chance to go to the free throw line and make 2.
You have been in this exact spot, David. This is the last game for both these teams before the Christmas break. And if you're Binghamton, you've got to be worried at this point on the back end of a 5-day road trip through Ohio and Pennsylvania in a building like this against an opponent like this, that maybe you start to think about the mistletoe a little bit, and this could get away from them in a hurry, don't you think?
You know, it's hard to say how much having a couple days off where everybody gets to go home really has an impact. I think the road trip itself probably has a little bit more of an impact. You know, they seemed locked in today at shoot around, ready to go. They haven't been able to make shots. You know, it's pretty simple. With a team that relies so heavily on the 3-point line, if their shots aren't falling, they're just going to struggle to score the basketball.
And another shot does not fall. Has there ever been mistletoe in the world that is high enough for you to stand underneath it?
Well, the ceilings in my house are only 8 feet, so there's not a whole lot of room to spare.
Keep the hair short on these. Tony has gotten it going offensively a little bit, and Binghamton just cannot protect the basketball.
Yeah, good idea there. Just couldn't hang on to it. But, you know, like I said, 22+ minutes here left. Just gotta lock in on defense. You know, the offense is not going their way right now, but just stick to your game plan. Try to keep perimeter out of, Pittsburgh out of the lane. Make them make perimeter jump shots. See if you can get a couple easy ones out here on the break.
Yeah, nothing has come easy for the Bearcats at all in this one, which we probably would have expected. Sessoms has done that well. Draw some D and kick to the corner. Not Caldwell, Wild. And nobody on Binghamton wants to take the shot. Tinsley in traffic, rejected. 2-on-1 up top, Champagnie.
And really impressed with Pittsburgh's attention to detail on closing out quickly on shooters. Binghamton's actually doing a pretty good job of moving the basketball, but Pittsburgh's doing a really good job of staying in scramble mode and getting out to shooters, running them off the 3-point line. And, you know, some of these shots might look open, but when you got a 6'6", 6'7", 6'8" guy running at you, they cover space in a lot of hurry. Good job there by Terrell Brown blocking the shot. Good job 2-on-1 fast break and throwing it up. Pretty simple basketball.
You know, I think Sessoms and Tinsley have done a pretty good job driving sort of underneath the basket and kicking to open shooters. I've been surprised, David, the last 4 or 5 minutes, those open looks have not been taken.
Well, like I said, the window for which they're open is so short because Pittsburgh's doing a good job. Good shot there by Sessoms. Pittsburgh's doing a great job of closing out. They're not, when the ball's being passed and moved, they're not standing and staring and watching the basketball. They're on the fly. They're rotating, they're covering for each other well, and they're doing a good job of closing out with their hands up, which, as a shooter, you think they're running at you, so you should shot fake, and sometimes you might pass up and open 3.
Koulibaly with a left. Feels like a big 90 seconds for Binghamton. They get the 3 from Sessoms, but now behind by 21. A little bit of momentum, trying to find some into the locker room. Almerjean steps on the sideline.
Yeah, and Pittsburgh, like I said, just being very active on defense, getting guys to play a little bit faster than they're used to, and Binghamton just not much of a rhythm right now on the offensive end of the court.
There are probably not many nights as a coach when you would look at the stat sheet and say 14 turnovers and 8 field goals. Not many know more about the ACC than Mark Packer and Wes Durham. Monday at 8, they'll take you through the last decade with the top games, players, and plays. Packer and Durham, Decade in Review show right here on ACCN and the ESPN app.
And Pittsburgh worked hard on that today and shoot around with their big guys. Flash into the middle of the lane, right around the ACC logo area, and either knocking down a 15-foot jump shot or putting the ball on the floor and trying to get to the rim. And they've had a lot of success early on with that action.
The Decade in Review show Monday at 8. I'm looking forward to that. We'll look the other way if a certain game between Louisville and Virginia makes the list of dramatic moments.
Oh, God, you just had to bring that up, didn't you?
The soft underbelly. My apologies. Louisville has got such a fabulous team. I know you see them all the time. With Warrior, they've got it really going with Chris Mack at the helm. And, you know, it's going to be fascinating to see that they clearly, David, have the most experience and depth, does Louisville. You'd have to say that Duke and Florida State have got the talent to hang with both those teams. And you mentioned UVA.
Yeah, it's, you know, the ACC doesn't have that dynamite team this year per se, where last year Duke obviously had Zion, they had RJ Barrett, they had Cam Reddish, where from a talent standpoint you just knew that with those three guys they were probably a cut above everybody else. Virginia had an older experienced team. North Carolina obviously was very good last year, and a lot of turnover this year in the ACC. That's the big thing, with the exception of Louisville. Louisville is kind of the one season veteran team, a lot of juniors and seniors. A lot of guys I had the opportunity to recruit and coach, and that's why they're off to such a good start this year. They have older guys, and in a league where there's a lot of turnover and a lot of younger rosters, that obviously is going to pay dividends for them, especially in conference play.
Sessoms has hit a couple late threes here in this half, which is encouraging for Binghamton, trying to hang around a little bit here. It is so true. You had your hands on so much of the roster that Chris Mack has going right now. And what are we, about 8 days away from the game that everybody in the Bluegrass State will circle on their calendars? I mean, it is life and death when Louisville and Kentucky square off, and it happens a week from tomorrow.
It's life and death when they, it's not life and death, we shouldn't say that, but it captivates everybody when they play in every sport, not just basketball. Obviously basketball is the pinnacle, but you know, it's Rupp Arena, if you're someone who likes to wear red, is not a friendly place for that game. Trust me, I can say that from experience. And even though Kentucky's struggling, you know, that's a game where Coach Calipari, obviously a great coach. I'm sure he'll have those guys coming out hungry, ready to play in that game, and it should be a heck of a basketball game.
To give you an idea of how well Pittsburgh has defended in this half, not only does Binghamton only have 21 points, but that's just the 4th team foul.
Yeah, doing a good job of being active without fouling. And I think Pittsburgh's length and athleticism is starting to get to Binghamton a little bit. You know, just not giving them anything easy. You feel like you just can't really get any good looks at anything that you're used to or accustomed to.
Now this is an awkward spot to inbound the ball after Helmergen had it stripped away. Yeah,
especially when you've got the length of someone like Justin Champagnie standing right on top of you. And it's just an awkward, there's not really a clean angle where you can throw the ball. And if you're Pittsburgh here, you want to try to get a stop without fouling and see if you can go down and create one more time. For Binghamton, just make sure you get a good look and don't give Pittsburgh a live ball turnover, most importantly.
I mean, the shortest guy on the floor is trying to inbound it, and he does with a moon ball up top to Helmergen. You know they're looking to Sessoms here. 5 on the shot clock, and this ball is going to go up. You just know it is. 1 to shoot near the half-court stripe, and what is Sessoms doing? He clearly did not see the shot clock.
Yeah, I'm not sure. I thought he looked up at it, so I'm not real sure what was going on there. But hey, it's a turnover, but at least they have a chance to set their defense here now. Pittsburgh with 7 seconds to try to get up the floor and get something good. But you know, Pittsburgh's just doing a great job off the ball defensively. Their guys are in a stance. They're ready to move on the next rotation, the rotation ahead of that. And very impressive performance so far here for the Panthers.
To be fair, maybe Sessoms looked down and saw the mid-stripe on the court as Murphy in the corner in traffic, and Tinsley has been active defensively.
He has. Jeff Capel here going to call a timeout. If you don't use it, you lose it. So might as well use it here. Try to draw something up underneath that bounce with 1 second left.
We'll be back very soon. 1 second left in the half. What can Pitt expect to get here?
I'd say something to the corner for either Trey McGowan's or Ryan Murphy.
On cue. Little too strong. You've done this before. Nostra Paget coming up on the State Farm halftime report as Pittsburgh takes a 20-point lead into the locker room. Packer and Durham talk conference scheduling. We will have first half stats and analysis. Pittsburgh surges into the locker room. They lead visiting Binghamton by 20. Halftime show. The State Farm halftime report broke the ice and they sure stormed right through it.
I'm not sure what looked better, those nachos or those Dippin' Dots. But no, Trey McGowan off to a great start here early. 11 first half points. 2 of 5 from 3, 3 of 4 from the free throw line. Has played well both games this week. Look for him to continue. Try to build some momentum getting into ACC play here in a few weeks.
Are you saying you're a savory, not sweet guy?
I mean, you can't go wrong with nachos. You just can't. I mean, tortilla chips and melted cheese, it just doesn't get any better than that.
Tinsley, and that is good off the window. A promising start for Binghamton.
Good execution there coming out of the half. Little up screen to get Tinsley an easy one around the rim. Binghamton going right back to that zone.
That was effective early in the first half, but then Pitt certainly solved it.
Yeah, and if you're Pittsburgh right now, you just want to make sure you don't come out flat. You know, you have a 20-point first half lead. First couple minutes of the second half, you want to come out with the same energy. You don't want to let Binghamton get any confidence and get back into this game.
Oh, a pretty good pass there, I thought, from Champagnie to Hamilton, but couldn't find the touch. And Tommy Dempsey's nightmare continues. Yet another turnover. Hamilton draws a double. There is so much room on the floor for Pitt to operate. Champagnie misses a corner three, but he takes it right back.
Yeah, and a good pass there by Adise Toney to Justin Champagnie in the corner. But when he catches that ball at the ACC, he's got to look at the basket. There was nobody playing him.
And look at the open spaces for these Pitt offensive players. Splash for Hamilton.
Yeah, good job there by Hamilton, not forcing anything against the double team in the post. But, you know, if you're Pittsburgh, you've shot the ball well in the first half, but you don't want to fall in love with the jump shot because of that. You know, you still want to continue to get the ball inside, do what you do, get the ball into the lane, and not a good foul there by Eric Hamilton, 22 feet away from the basket.
Yeah, that's not where Sarr is dangerous at all. Look, you break down tape like a coach, like I can't, but it does not take expert eyes to see that all of a sudden on the offensive end, Pitt just has the ocean in which to operate.
Yeah, and it's amazing, too, what...
Off the window and a goaltend to Sesam's little backdoor cut.
Yeah, Coach Capel not going to be happy with that, the lack of urgency here for Pitt on defense.
But back to the offense for Pitt.
Yeah, when you see the ball go through the rim a couple times, it's amazing how that changes your mindset, your confidence, and not a good pass there by Xavier Johnson. Got to throw it away from the defense, but...
Sessoms for three.
Yeah, and the start you needed here if you're the Binghamton Bearcats and if you're the Pitt Panthers, not exactly how you wanted to come out at halftime. Coach Capel over there on the sideline, clearly not very happy with his team right now.
And a Crouch scowling back to that active zone.
And this is part of the territory with a younger team, which, you know, Pitt's not as young as Binghamton, but they're still a young team playing with a lead. And Coach Capel calling a timeout right here. He's going to get into his guys about their effort on the defensive end of the court. But, you know, if you're Pitt, you want to just get your defense going again. But good start for Binghamton here in the second half. Made a couple shots early, getting back into this one.
Team activities, that's your kind of snack right there, David Paget.
Yeah, I don't want to talk about it. It's making me hungry.
I personally would like to see some jalapenos on those chips. Sessoms trying to get hot, and it's stuck on the rim. The ball goes back to Pitt.
Yeah, better intensity there coming out of that timeout, which you would expect for the Panthers. It's like I was saying before the break, when you're a younger team playing with a lead at home, it's a tough lesson to learn how you just can't let that team get back into the game. You know, you just got to come out with the same intensity. Be curious to see here how Pittsburgh responds through a couple possessions. You know, good start there, but Binghamton, you know, it's amazing what happens when you see the ball go through the basket.
Champagnie, I think, has been really effective as a distributor, and he finds Hamilton.
Yeah, they worked hard on that action today. Hitting the short corner, guy at the top of the key, or it's free throw line, excuse me, dives hard to the rim. They've done a good job of making that pass, and Hamilton bobbled it a little bit, but still able to catch and finish for a chance at the three-point play.
I mean, to be fair to Pitt, it is not exactly electric in this building, which you might expect this time of year heading into the holidays. You got to generate your own energy.
Yeah, and it's tough when school's over, finals are over. A lot of the students have gone home. When school's in session, the Pittsburgh Zoo across from us over there is one of the better student sections in the country, and it's a completely different atmosphere. But you like to see the way Pitt is responding here to whatever Coach Capel said to him in that timeout, coming out with a lot more energy on both ends of the court.
On the other side, speaking of youth, Binghamton is the 8th youngest team in America. As Hamilton trying to get it going. And so for Tommy Dempsey, he knows he's maybe a year or two away from having the kind of core that could really earnestly compete in this kind of game. Sessum's a little bit out of control, but for a young team, they've already lost by 53 to Michigan State. They have played some big-time teams. That's life as a team like Binghamton, but this is a coachable, teachable moment for Binghamton, trying to finish this game the right way.
Oh, no question. And, you know, there's a lot of time left in this game. I've seen crazier things happen where all of a sudden, obviously that's not a good sign for them right there. But, you know, you just want to compete and get better heading into league play. You know, obviously they're going to have a little bit of a break here. But coming back after Christmas, it's all about conference play. And, yeah, Coach Dempsey is very high on this young group of players that he has. And, you know, they obviously haven't played well here tonight so far. But, you know, just it's a chance to play against an ACC team on the road, and playing against better teams makes you better. So that's all you can ask for.
They are shorthanded, is Binghamton. They've got one of their great big men in recent memory has dealt for the last 2 seasons with major concussion issues. They tragically lost a really promising young man, Callistus Anyichie. We'll get into that as our broadcast goes on. The point is that they just don't have a lot of bodies yet, not enough to play the style that they'd like.
Yeah, and when your 2 leading minute guys are freshmen, there's going to be growing pains. There just are. It doesn't matter if you're at Binghamton or it doesn't matter if you're at Duke. You know, with freshmen who've never done this before, there's just going to be a learning curve. And, you know, unfortunately, as a coach, there's no way you can expedite that process. They just have to go through the trials and tribulations of college basketball. And the good news is they're pretty talented. Coach Dempsey likes these guys. They can shoot the basketball. And, I'd expect them to continue to get better and have a very good year in the American East this year.
I would expect that defensive trip to be in the film session when Pitt comes back together, as Helmerson was just left completely alone down the middle of the lane. What a dish from McGowan's. Champagny, no. Brown, no. And Tinsley comes away.
Yeah, and, you know, good look there. You got to convert those. You have to. Those are the ones that
the pallbearers. A look at the young man who was a real light on the team, on the campus, in the community. And I think, David, the way that Tommy Dempsey handled it, the way this team continues to be resilient in the face of such tragedy, tells you a lot about that man at the helm and a lot about this group of young kids.
Yeah, you know, clearly just a horrific tragedy. You know, Coach Dempsey said it best. There's no blueprint on how to handle a situation like this. And just talking to other people in the program, they said the way he handled it was absolutely remarkable. He kept all these guys together. You know, they took an entire month off from basketball and didn't touch a basketball, didn't talk about basketball, just talked about the important things in life, you know, family, being close. And I think it really, just in talking to him today, it really put into perspective just a lot of things. Obviously, life is very precious, and you know, one of the effects of what happened was it brought this team closer together. And you know, several of the players were there the day it happened, and it's something they'll never forget. And these guys just really bonded as a team. They're now playing for each other. They're playing for the memory of a teammate that they lost in a horrific accident. And you know, to be where they are and to see how close they are and how together they are really is remarkable. And Tommy Dempsey deserves a lot of credit for really getting these guys through a time like that.
He absolutely does. You know, I was so moved by how he talked of Callistus Anyichie. He eulogized him by all accounts, did a wonderful job. He essentially, David, converted the basketball locker room into a big living room for the players. The doors were always open. Food was always there, creating an environment where kids could come talk and grieve and process. And as you said, on no level was basketball any part of it. And there is a physical representation of the void that young man has left.
Yeah, and it was interesting talking to him. You know, obviously the university brought in counselors and made available people for anybody to come see, especially these players. And some players, it helped, I think. Some players, maybe they just weren't quite as comfortable, and they're most comfortable talking to each other and talking to their coaches. You know, these coaches are parents to these guys while they're playing for them for 4 years, and they have formed a bond throughout this tragedy that they'll have for the rest of their lives. And it's remarkable to see how well they've handled a situation that is just unimaginable for the rest of us.
And Coach Dempsey almost literally was a parent to Anyichie. He talks about how when he's at home these days, he still looks over into his kitchen and remembers when Callistus was doing dishes at his sink, came over from Nigeria to New Jersey, spent time with a host family there, moved up to Pitt. You know, he asked his kids, how do you guys want to deal with this? Do we keep his locker going in the locker room? Yes, they've left it alone. Do we create a seat for him on the bench? Yes, they have the jersey every night. So all in all, the way that they've processed it has been remarkable. Trying to hang around in this game within 17 as Sessoms finds Helmerson in the corner, and that's a big triple.
Binghamton coming out very impressively here to start this second half, and you know, now all of a sudden getting a couple shots to fall. The game plan they were looking for coming into this game, and Pittsburgh just being lackadaisical on the offensive end of the court. Just, you know, good job there by Xavier Johnson getting in the lane, but just a couple careless turnovers, just not being as sharp with the ball. And you know, Coach Capel obviously sitting over there not looking real happy with his team's effort right now.
Binghamton has hit 6 of the 11 shots they've taken in this half, as Johnson will go to the free throw line. He is not very good here. 66%. Makes the first.
Yeah, and you know, if you're Pitt right now, you had a 20-point lead at halftime. You're not gonna come out and just coast to a 30-point win. I mean, Binghamton is a competitive team. I mean, they played at Michigan State earlier this year. They've been on the road and been tested before, and they're coming off a loss. And you got to expect a well-coached team is going to come out and play hard. And when a team shoots the ball as well as they do and as many times as they do during the course of a game, they have a chance to hang around, and that's exactly what Pitt is letting them do right now.
You can understand why Jeff Capel is so upset on the bench. There is so much Mike Krzyzewski in Jeff Capel, and that is obvious. I mean, he played for him, he coached with him. He talks openly about their ongoing relationship, how much he has brought from Duke to this program, accountability, the desire to fight and push for everything that you get. It really feels like a perfect fit here at Pittsburgh, and that he's really got a chance to make this something special in Pennsylvania. There's another one of those easy second chance points for the Panthers.
Yeah, and Terrell Brown, good move, getting to the front of the rim, wasn't able to convert, but stayed with it and tipped it in. And that's what Pitt has to do, just get the ball inside. And you know, Binghamton right there, just another turnover. It's been the story of the game now. 19 turnovers for Binghamton, and you know, if you're Pittsburgh here, you want to try to see if you can open this back up a little bit, and you know, just play well. You know, it looks like they're probably going to have a pretty good chance to win this game. Obviously, a lot of time left, but you just want to play well. You know, this is as a young team, you just got to learn how to play with a lead, and it sounds easy to do, but it really isn't. You got to learn how to play with a lead and put teams away when you have a chance to do so. You
know, we've talked about the ACC and how it is more wide open, particularly in the middle of the league. There is Murphy for 3.
And he probably just took a huge deep breath, sigh of relief. You know, the young man has been struggling shooting the ball, and you know, maybe seeing that one go through the rim will really get him going.
Yeah, would you be surprised at all if he made 3 or 4 more in this game?
No, because that's all it takes is just one. You know, it just takes one to get you going, and had a good look. And you know, if you're Pitt right there, you live with that foul, being aggressive, trying to get a steal. And you know, if you're Binghamton, just look, take care of the ball the last 12 minutes, continue to try to get good shots, and just try to chip away at it one possession at a time.
Richard Caldwell, one of the couple seniors on this Binghamton club, will come in off the bench. We were talking about the ACC and how teams like Pitt have a chance to really surprise and maybe make it to the, let's say, the upper half of the middle in the conference. And I think the same is true of Binghamton, because in the America East, certainly Vermont and Stony Brook, who just actually played UVA tight this week, those two, I think, are clearly a cut above in the America East. But with the scorers that they have and the young talent, Binghamton could certainly challenge for that upper tier in their league.
Yeah, obviously it's going to be hard for him for anybody, for that matter, to go on the road at Vermont and get a win. But Binghamton has been very good at home this year, and I think this team will only continue to get better as the year goes on. And you know, it's just like I said, the growing pains of being young. But you know, to see them come out in the second half, and you know, you would never expect a team to quit, but just to fight like the way they did to get back into it a little bit is impressive, and that's what you want to see as a head coach.
Under 12 to go. Pitt leading by 20. And Petcash, the Pittsburgh native, coming away with it.
And Pitt's done that about 2 or 3 times so far tonight. They've had the post up coming off that ball screen and in the zone, but the offensive player's got to throw the ball away from the defense. He keeps throwing it to the side where the defender is. If he throws it away from the defense, it's probably just an easy dunk.
This place is going to get loud if 11 in green makes a shot. He's got 50 or more family and friends in the building. Helmership, teardrop won't go. They look to find Murphy again. McGowan's instead into the paint. And a good finish there by Audi's Tony.
Very good finish. You know, tough little bounce pass in the lane. Good catch and finish by Tony.
Caldwell has just been totally out of sorts in this game.
Good
Here's
hustle.
Murphy after another turnover. And
There it is. Off to the races. And a good tussle there by, I believe it was Trey McGowan's getting on the floor, saving that ball, led to a transition 3 for Pitt.
And another giveaway.
Good
Petcash into the front court. McGowan's flushes.
Oh.
A miss off the back of the rim.
Ryan Murphy. Amazing what seeing a couple shots go through the rim will do for you on both ends of the court.
Lays it in, and Tommy Dempsey has seen enough. There's your guy, David. He's gotten hot.
And Ryan Murphy, great hustle there by 2 Panthers getting on the court. Saw the first one go in, confidence, knocks it down on the break. Pitt opening this one up.
Here on the ACC network and the ESPN app. Well, Pittsburgh has its largest lead as Sessum's trying to break the timeline and does. 27 is the advantage. And it's sort of eerie, the similarities between the 2 halves in this game. It was McGowan's in the first half, and Murphy with a 10-point spurt has really broken this thing open for Pitt.
Yeah, and it started with their defense. You know, they forced a couple more turnovers.
Murphy, can he do it again? He can.
What did I say before the game? Maybe I should go buy a Powerball ticket tonight or something. But, you know, like I said, it started with their defense. Good defensive possession on the last one right there. Got the rebound. And now Ryan Murphy's got that confidence that he needs and that his coaching staff loves to see.
You said it to Jeff Capel. You said this could be a breakout game for him. Just like you've seen Pitt this week, paying attention. And you're right, the shot looks too good to not go in. Sessum's off the window, and it would be I think it's hard to overstate, David, how big it would be for Pitt if Murphy really does emerge.
Yeah, and they're going to need him to emerge because of what he's doing. You know, he can make perimeter jump shots, and that changes the whole complexion of their team in the half court. And, you know, it's probably taken him a little bit of an adjustment so far early in the season. You know, started at Charlotte, transferred to junior college for a year, his first year at Pittsburgh now, and the style of play, new offense, new coaching staff, and you know, it's perfect time of year for him to kind of get that rhythm and get going, heading into the most important part of the year here in ACC play.
I mean, he's one of these guys who can score in bunches. He came off the bench against Nicholls State, a shocking loss for Pitt, and scored 28 that night.
Yeah, coming on the heels of a great win against a Florida State team that's now ranked in the top 25, and just didn't really know how to handle that success. Missed one there, but you know, I think this Pittsburgh team they're only going to get better as the year goes on. I think they're starting to find out their roles individually. They're starting to gel offensively and with what their coaches want. And, you know, defensively, they're a good team. They really get after guys in the half court and create turnovers, and it's going on a pretty good looking run right here.
Indeed, 16-2 at the moment. They are a team of runs. They ended the previous game on a 15-0 run to ice that game earlier in this one, the first half, a 19-2 run. So they really do have the ability to go in major swings. They've also, by the way, you saw the numbers there, forced a season-high 24 Binghamton turnovers.
And some of those unforced, but you got to give Pittsburgh defense a lot of credit. And this zone won the game for them against Northern Illinois on Monday night. You know, they were trailing essentially the first 34 minutes of the game and went to the zone, and it got them back in the game and won the game for them. And it's been pretty effective for them here tonight. So, I have a feeling they're going to continue to work on this and look at this as the year moves on.
Pretty good job there by Murphy to get Sessoms off his feet and draw a foul. That has become such a big part of the NBA game, and I know that it's a topic of debate among the people who are following the NBA and running it. Adam Silver has talked a lot about needing to make that part of it less important. I mean, half the possessions, it feels like, guys are trying to draw fouls outside the three-point line.
And a good pass right there by Xavier Johnson, doing exactly what I mentioned earlier. He threw that one away from the defense. Good pass there. But yeah, the reason the scoring, you know, obviously the game of basketball has changed pretty significantly here over the last 8-10 years. And you can thank the Golden State Warriors for a majority of that with the way they played. But and as we see that pass, good job stealing, good pass, chance to knock him down at the free throw line. But a big reason why the scoring in the NBA is so high is because they're shooting so many free throws. And a lot of teams, obviously, Houston Rockets, live and die by the three, but they get to the free throw line so much. I mean, you look at some of these box scores, you see guys scoring 35, 40 points a game and only taking 17, 18 shots. So they're shooting 15, 16 free throws a game, and that's why the scoring has gone up so much. But, you know, it's for a couple of years there, scoring was down so much that they had to do something about it. And, you know, the NBA is at a pretty exciting time right now. It's got a lot of talent. And night in, night out, there's a couple of games you can turn on where there's some really, really talented players that are a lot of fun to watch.
Yeah, the Greek Freak had a huge night as the Bucks beat the Lakers. That could be an NBA preview for later in the summer. I think it's fascinating that the viewership for the league at the moment is taking a little bit of a dip. So they're trying to be proactive and think about ways to bring eyeballs back to it. And there was talk today even as a big-time rejection of J.J. Brown. What rim protection there by Terrell Brown. Brown on Brown crime.
And it's been all Pittsburgh in this one so far here in the second half. Good block there. Pitt with a 27-point lead heading into the 7-minute mark. Excellent camera crew coming down, giving signals behind the back for the half-court trap coming into that 2-3 zone. So not only doing it on the offensive end, but doing it on the defensive end as well.
Yeah, like the quarterback of the defense, dialing up a trap. Just turned the corner since the half. Some talk today that the NBA is discussing a $1 million per player in-season tournament to re-energize interest in the regular season. I'm not sure $1 million a man in the NBA is enough cash to move the needle.
That's exactly what I was just thinking.
Tinsley travels.
And that's where the length, activity, and athleticism of Pittsburgh it just wears on you after a while. You know, Tinsley caught it in the lane right there. Should have just gone straight up, but was probably a little bit worried about where Hamilton was, maybe getting a shot blocked, and instead hesitated, shot faked, and traveled.
Length, activity, and athleticism. The sub-headline of the David Padgett autobiography.
I don't know about the athleticism part.
Champagny.
And Pittsburgh's big guys do a really good job of knocking down that 15, 14-foot jump shot. And that is not an easy shot, especially from the baseline. And they've knocked down a couple from the free throw line area as well. And you know, they seem to work hard on that, did it a lot in shoot-around today. But that could be an effective weapon going against zone defenses this year.
Tinsley finds it. You know, you predicted a lot of things before the game that had come true, including this man getting hot, strong with another triple. But one thing you did say is you figured that over the course of this thing, Binghamton just would wear down defensively. And it appears that with the space again given to Champagny, that has happened.
Yeah, you know, just coming on a road trip, had a tough loss the other night at Youngstown State. And just a team that's not real deep to begin with, and just the physicality and the length of Pittsburgh, and just kind of can wear you down a little bit. But, you know, I give Binghamton credit. They're still competing. They're out here. Came out good to start the second half. And, you know, they're looking forward, I'm sure, to a nice little break to get energized and geared up for the ACC, or I'm sorry, the America East Conference season. Yeah,
they have 9 days off to play Hartwick and then into league play on January 4th with Albany. Meantime, it does not get easy for Pitt. I mean, how about starting the ACC season with Florida State, and then you have Louisville in a 5-game span for Jeff Capel and these Panthers in January. They'll have Carolina twice and Louisville again. Life in the ACC.
Life in the ACC is exactly right. There's no such thing as an easy road, especially this year now moving to 20 league games. And, you know, they've got Canisius coming back in after the break after Christmas, but start at home against Wake Forest, and then you see those 2 road games. Even Miami, who's not as good as they have been in years past, that's still a very difficult place to play. Coach Larinaga, a very good coach. They got Louisville coming back here as a return game, number 3 team in the country. So, you know, once the new year rolls around, you can turn the calendar, but that schedule certainly doesn't get any easier.
I think speaking of schedule, one game that people in these parts are upset is not on Pitt's schedule is the city game with Duquesne coming to Pitt, and that is something that has been asked of Jeff Capel. They plan to reinstate it in a couple of seasons, but for a town that's got a couple big basketball programs, I think it'd be really good inside this building to get them both going once again, as they have for years in the past.
Yeah, you know, I'm not sure of the specifics as far as why they don't play anymore, but it's probably a good thing maybe for Pitt that they're not. You know, I'm not saying Pittsburgh wouldn't beat them, but Duquesne is 9-0 this year. They have a very, very good team. But yeah, you always want to see those in-town, in-state rivalries. And as we take a look at the 4 remaining unbeatens in college basketball, and you know, San Diego State is a team on this list that is certainly worthy of their undefeated record so far. Very good team, older team, experienced team, very well coached team, and Auburn obviously in the SEC coming off that Final Four a year ago. But it's going to be a very exciting March and early April in the NCAA tournament. There's no superstar loaded team this year, and I think that's going to make for an awesome time. And you know, you could see a team this year that has 10, 11, 12 losses on the season that wins an NCAA championship. I really do think it's that wide open.
More parity than ever before. You know, you've predicted a lot of things tonight and this season. I don't believe you would have predicted those teams to be the last remaining unbeaten. Certainly not Liberty and Duquesne.
No, but again, very well coached teams. You know, not very often do you see the top 5 teams in the country with 1 loss on whatever today is, December 20th. You know, usually you don't get into January before you start seeing that. But I think it's a good thing for college basketball from a fan standpoint, because on any night, anybody can beat anybody. You look at Evansville goes into Rupp Arena, one of the toughest places in the country to play, gets a win. Stephen F. Austin goes into Cameron, arguably the toughest place in the country to play. They get a win. You know, it's a crazy year in college basketball, but it's also an exciting one.
Sessoms will have a wide open 3 in the corner, and Murphy bats the rebound to Tinsley.
Yeah, and give Binghamton credit. They knew coming into this game they were going to have to compete on the backboard, and they are out competing Pittsburgh right now on the backboard and have an advantage throughout the game. So certainly something Jeff Capel's not going to be happy about when he watches this film.
I appreciate that you have talked, as number 31 in white has had the basketball. That is Onibuchi Ezeakuda. And they find the finish for Audi's Tony in the paint.
Yeah, I'm going to leave that one up to you.
You can call him Booch.
And I'm sure they have a nickname for him. We just didn't get a chance to get it before the game. But
Ezeakuda getting some minutes late in this one as Pitt has pulled away their largest lead of the evening, 31 with 3:20 to go. Corner 3, and that will fall for J.J. Brown. Bobby Dempsey trying to get the boys to the finish line, hanging on in Pittsburgh.
Depends on how high the ceilings are.
I can't believe they're only 8 feet in your...
They might be 9, I don't know.
It's a wonderful building. It celebrates all faiths and holidays here on this Pittsburgh campus. Pitt has limited their opponents at the free throw line. Against Northern Illinois, just 2 attempts, and tonight Binghamton has only taken 2 free throws and missed them both.
Yeah, and when you're a perimeter-oriented team, obviously you're not going to get a lot of free throw attempts because you're not getting to the ball in the lane a ton. But Pitt's done a good job of defending without fouling. It's, you know, even in the first half, I think they only had 14 fouls, only have 5 so far with only about 3 minutes remaining in this game.
You know, we talked about whether or not Cole Anthony would play again in this season. We now know definitively that James Wiseman will not. He announced after playing in the 3 games for Penny Hardaway's Memphis team that he will not return. He's going to declare for the NBA draft. And, you know, I know you have some pretty strong feelings, as do so many who care about college basketball. David, it seems pretty simple. An obvious violation. They gambled, put him on the court, and it will not just have ramifications for that young man, but his teammates too.
From an outsider's perspective looking in without obviously knowing a whole lot of the detail, it's certainly unprecedented. You have not a whole lot of situations like this before, but you know, the thing that just confuses me is if it was pretty clear that there was a violation, why jeopardize the future of the rest of the team by playing him in that early game? Because especially now, he's not playing at all anymore. He's left school, he's left the team, which, hey, if that's in the best interest of him and his future and what he needs to do, you know, that's his decision to make. But his teammates are the ones that are going to be punished, because what if the NCAA comes back here before the season's over and says, because you guys played him ineligible, you can't play in the postseason? And I haven't seen Memphis play this year, but I know that they went to Tennessee and got a win in Knoxville, so without James Wiseman. So obviously they still have a pretty talented team, and you would hate to see the rest of those guys suffer the consequences for something that they didn't really have anything to do with.
I think that is exceedingly likely. Some new faces on the floor for Jeff Capel as the bench gets some runs. Samson George is out there. Koulibaly getting some extended minutes. KJ Marshall some run for the Panthers, and Anthony Starzinski as well. Speaking of bench, Leo Gallagher comes off, as does the local kid Dan Petcash, and you know that Tommy Dempsey wants to get that kid, number 11 in green. They're going to, don't you think, run some plays, try to get him a bucket in front of his friends and family?
Yeah, no question. You know, 6'4" freshman from here in Pittsburgh, obviously has a lot of family members here at the game today, and you know, got in the first half here early, but always fun when you have a chance to play at home in front of your family and friends. Obviously not the outcome I'm sure he was hoping for, but nonetheless a chance to, doesn't have to travel real far to go home for the holidays.
No kidding. See if the ball finds it in his hands. It does. He shoots it. Oh, and
pretty good looking stroke,
misses the three. Tinsley with a board.
And
not many know more about the ACC than Mark Packer and Wester on Monday at 8 Eastern. Take you through the last decade with the top games, players, and plays in the conference. Packer and Durham Decade in Review show right here on ACCN and the ESPN app. They got him a good look, David.
They did. You know, hope you could knock it down. But when Coach Capel watches this film, obviously he's going to be pleased in a lot of areas, no doubt about that. The one area where he's not going to be very happy, I think, is the backboard. You know, Binghamton, not a great rebounding team on the year. Pittsburgh has been. Binghamton currently out rebounding them, by one throughout the course of the game. You know, the one area where I'm sure he'll stress it, always can learn. Always better to learn in a win than a loss, but you know, it's that's going to be a key for this Pittsburgh team heading to ACC plays. They're going to have to hold their own on the backboard.
They've got scoring up and down. 7 Panthers have scored at least 8 points tonight. I mean, that is really kind of shocking, David. Not to make too big a deal of it, but the idea that Binghamton would hang around on the boards with Pitt is not something any of us would have seen coming, as a turnover for the Panthers after a miss stepping on the baseline.
Yeah, you know, it's be a good Christmas break, obviously, for the Panthers. Binghamton, a little tougher go into a break after a 2-game road trip where you lose both games, but you know, maybe a good time for a break. Everybody gets away from it for a few days, has a chance to refresh, come back ready to go. And you know, I think both these teams, Binghamton obviously hasn't played their best tonight, but like I said, I think both these teams are moving in the right direction. I think they have a chance to have a very good conference year. And, you know, Binghamton was picked 6, and talking to Coach Dempsey today, he has a feeling they can finish in the top 3 or 4 of their league, which I think would be a very successful league for them this year, especially given how young they are.
Yeah, they schedule these games knowing the deal. There are financial ramifications for them.
Certainly, yep.
They learn from these moments, and maybe it does make them better equipped to handle the America East.
Look out.
The downside of sitting in the front row, you take one off the dome.
Yeah, man, I'm not sure if it hit him in the head. I think he had his hand in the popcorn, but hope he's all right. He's awake now, that's for sure.
He'll be extra alert, trying to pay attention to where the elf is on the shelf tonight. Petcash again for 3.
There you go. You love to see that. Good reaction from his family and friends behind the Binghamton bench.
The local kid comes home and makes good in his freshman year. Pitt, one final possession here. The bench got to its feet, hoping Marshall could find one there. And out of bounds. Binghamton will have one last look, trailing by 26. So Pitt will have Canisius, Wake, and then they go to Carolina after a long, much-needed break. Gallagher, one last look for three. Too strong, and the Panthers are going to hold on and blow out Binghamton here at home.
Very solid performance here for the Pittsburgh Panthers, coming off a good win the other night against Northern Illinois team. Got a little momentum here heading into the Christmas holiday season, and winners of 7 of their last 8, so certainly trending in the right direction.
They handled their business. We've got more to do here from Pittsburgh. We'll talk to the head man, Jeff Capel, when we return. 26-point win for the Panthers. We'll talk to the man in charge.